Race fans, start your engines for a non-stop thrill ride.
Hit 'em!
It's the most high-octane countdown show ever, bringing you the 10 wildest throwdowns in NASCAR history.
You just made a person crazy.
From the brawl that started it all,
that's when men were men.
My story, and I'm sticking to it.
To Mr. Excitement earning his nickname.
Took care of that.
From Rusty shutting up jobs.
That's a fight I don't want to be in the middle of.
To Michael taking big swings.
He was flying at that thing that day.
From Gordon keeping his helmet on.
Take your helmet off. Leave your gloves on if you want to.
To Harvick's revenge.
He was just a wild man back then.
From the Intimidator taking on the Rooster.
I think we're discussing the weather, I believe.
To a girl standing up for her man.
There's nothing better than a good old cat fight.
But only one can be number one.
He's going to get one back, I promise you that.
This is more than just a race to the finish line. It's a journey through time.
And we're all going to witness it.
Buckle up and hang on for the 10 wildest throwdowns in NASCAR history. Number 10.
Gordon turns around Tony Stewart. Here they come to the flag.
Rivalries at Bristol. Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon.
Jeff Gordon is as rough and tough a competitor as anybody out there.
You'd say, what a cool guy Jeff Gordon is. But you know what? He'll stand on your throat if he needs to in that race car.
Jeff Gordon knows how to say, I've had enough of you. Well, Tony Stewart's another one.
And on pit road, Stewart expresses his displeasure with Jeff Gordon.
Yeah, I'd say he's having brake trouble.
They really got it on, and after the race, they really got it on.
Just him and I.
Gordon truck.
Parked right next to each other. And Stewart gets out, Jeff Gordon gets out. I can help it, Jeff. You think I'm on purpose?
You got two guys, both with iron wheels.
We deserve that every so often, to let the emotions show.
If you're going to do it, then I'm going to do it.
I'll slam you straight in the wall the next time you're anywhere near me.
First time you slam me in the wall, you better get your
What'd you do? What'd you just do?
Of course, NASCAR's like, come to the trailer, boys. Quit fighting.
It was just a classic short track battle from two guys who grew up battling on short tracks.
Number 9.
His old friend Nicole of Greg Biffle talking to Eva.
Of all the fights we've had in NASCAR, my favorite is 2006 at Texas.
Kurt Busch, I think at the time, was racing a lap down, and Greg Biffle had a car that was contending for a win.
Kurt Busch did get into Greg Biffle and sent Greg Biffle into the wall, and it was a relatively hard hit.
All of a sudden I look out of the corner of my eye, and I see Nicole, Greg's then girlfriend, walking down pit road.
Run, sprint about 8 boxes down to where Kurt Busch's crew was, and Kurt's girlfriend Eva was on top of the pit box there.
It's cool to watch women fight.
Well, there's nothing better than a good old cat fight.
Especially the ones that are typically dressed up with the high heels and all that.
Nicole jumps up on the ladder, just like she was a crew chief, and points her finger in Eva's face.
And start yelling at her.
I can't even call it a fight. I think it was more a shouting match.
I mean, that's some of the greatest highlights in the world. That's one of those where I wish someone had a microphone there to see what they were saying.
Even though it was verbally, I'm thinking, you know what, that's pretty good to show you care about your man that way. And
this incident was great.
Two women have at it, I guess, NASCAR style in Texas.
Number 8.
Oh, Michael Waltrip is a little upset here at Lake Speed.
Yeah, that's like tall guy, short guy.
Michael's a bit of an anomaly in the sport. He's so funny, he's so charismatic, he makes jokes about himself.
Michael Waltrip went over and had words and maybe more.
It just goes to show that, how emotional our sport is.
When you look at Lake is just such a calm guy. And 90% of the time, Michael is just that gentle giant. Probably kind of hard to get scared of Michael when he's coming at you because he's so nice and can be a little goofy.
Michael is very passionate about racing.
When you made him mad, he was mad.
Overpowering guy comes looking down in your car and starts swinging at you.
And he's got a little bit longer reach than Lake would have.
Michael was punching out a window net. I mean, he was flying at that thing that day.
Lake Speed was smart enough to leave his helmet on and his window net up, so it doesn't lead to much.
If you feel like somebody's done you wrong, you can use your race car to retaliate, or you can park your car on pit road in front of the guy that you're mad at and get out and go try to pop him in the nose. I mean, that's about all you can do.
They got into a good confrontation on pit road.
But I know it cost him 10 grand.
Well, that cost him 10 G's.
To this day, Michael Waltrip does not like to talk about that. He's embarrassed about it, so I'm glad we get to talk about it.
He doesn't need a lot of help, but he made a fool of himself, and I felt bad for him for that.
Number 7.
and crashed.
Kevin Harvick and Ricky Rudd at Richmond.
Richmond, another one of those places where emotions always seem to run high.
Oh, here we go.
Yep. Kevin Harvick looking for Ricky Rudd.
Yep. You have the young versus the old.
You know, it's almost young versus old. Kevin Harvick was sort of this young, brash guy. Ricky Rudd was the veteran.
Kevin Harvick and Ricky Rudd had battled the whole day.
Finally, near the end of the race, they get together, and Harvick gets the worst end of the deal. And crashed.
Harvick didn't like it. You know, Harvick was still young at the time.
I felt like something was actually going to happen on the racetrack.
Kevin Harvick wasn't about to back down to anybody.
Typical Kevin Harvick fashion. He doesn't back down either.
As he's done many times, he waited till he got to pit road.
Here comes Harvick and his beat-up race car and pulls up right beside him.
I'll never forget when the race is over with and Harvick's running across cars.
Harvick gets out of his car and yells at Ricky Rudd.
It just exploded once they got onto pit road.
NASCAR officials telling Kevin to get off the car, get the crewman off the car.
Get off the car. I'm trying, man. Harvick walking across Ricky Rudd's number 21 across the hood.
Here we go. He walked across the top of the 21. And now it's on.
Two of Kevin Harvick's crew members come running over. I think one of them pulled out his like Jimmy Superfly Snuka wrestling move and just sort of like.
You've got Big Mike Sears. You know, he comes across and jumps on the hood of Rudd's car.
Ricky Rudd took a damn cheap shot at us. If he's gonna, take a cheap shot, he's gonna get one back. I promise you that.
The last guy I want to yell at after a race is Ricky Rudd.
Ricky wasn't afraid of anybody. He sure wasn't going to back down from Kevin Harvick.
Ricky Rudd's the rooster.
He gets like these crazy eyes going on whenever he gets mad about something.
They didn't call him the rooster for nothing.
Look at the hood. Look at the damage. I mean, that's totally ridiculous after the race stuff like that. What did he say to you when he climbed out of the car? I couldn't hear him. He's, got that little yap mouth. I couldn't tell what he was saying.
While Kevin Harvick is not necessarily a guy you want to mess with, I don't think Ricky Rudd is the guy that you want to mess with either.
I mean, he would get up there and get in your face.
If Harvick really wanted to get an ass whipping that day, he could have got it from Ricky Rudd.
Coming up, fisticuffs and smack talk.
Whoa! Thank God there were TV cameras there for this one.
That's a fight I don't want to be in the middle of.
You would never think that would come out of either one of those guys.
Neither one were going to back down an inch.
Back there with the decrepit old has-been.
Craziness. Ooh, you just made it personal.
When the 10 wildest throwdowns in NASCAR history returns. Welcome back to the 10 wildest throwdowns in NASCAR history.
Rivalries are always real, and the intensity that goes with them.
When you race against each other 38 times a year and you have a rivalry with somebody, it's harder for that to disappear. It keeps going.
NASCAR needs its good guys and it needs its bad guys.
But NASCAR fights, they're much shorter, and they usually result in hand-making contact.
It's just emotion. You can't help it. There's no way to run from it.
Back in the day, when somebody was mad at you, he didn't just come and point their finger at you and shove you around. And, we had fights.
A 4,000-pound race car can hurt you a whole lot worse than a 280-pound fullback. Of course, I don't want to get run over by either one of them.
Let's get back to the countdown. Number 6.
Oh, and look at this. The 24 just went around.
Jeff Gordon out of his car.
Whoa! Thank God there was TV cameras there for this one.
He's not happy with Matt Kenseth.
The last lap, and I was behind Jeff and got in the corner too hard and just, bumped him a little bit and he spun out.
Kenseth's coming over, actually, I think, to apologize.
Before Matt can say anything, Jeff gives him a two-hand shove.
Almost a forearm shiver kind of move.
You could tell Matt was not expecting Jeff Gordon to come give him the shove. Jeff Gordon pushed Matt Kenseth's back so fast, so hard.
The person who was most surprised by that, obviously, was Matt.
I was dumb enough to try to find him and go over and apologize and really realize how mad he would be.
The uncool thing about it was, Jeff left his helmet on.
He didn't take off his helmet.
If you really want to fight, either both guys got to have your helmet on, or both guys should have their helmet off.
What you saw out of Jeff Gordon was the true passion that he has in a race car.
In my book, it was just like a schoolyard push in the chest.
You know, to call that a fight is probably a misstatement. It was really a shove and an insult.
And they fined Jeff Gordon $10,000.
They kind of look like two little Power Rangers going at it on pit road.
You would never think that would come out of either one of those guys.
Was it maybe the most physical, aggressive, macho showdown we've ever seen at a race? But it was certainly one that people remembered.
Dumb mistake on my part and ended up ruining his day, so he wasn't real happy with that afterwards.
Number 5.
He had a big bullseye back there, and I guess he couldn't see too good, and he ends up winning the race that way.
Jimmy Spencer and Kurt Busch are just 180 degrees apart.
To me, Kurt kind of had a chip on his shoulder.
This kid just had a chip on his shoulder, man.
Yeah, it was fun. We battled back and forth for years, and it came to a head at Michigan.
Man, the guy tried to wreck me again.
It's tough when you bump somebody at 100 miles an hour, and then when they come back and bump at 200 miles an hour.
Spencer had been around a long time, thought he deserved a little bit more respect.
We spun, and that put us in a bad position. Back there with the decrepit old has-beens, I guess.
Craziness.
You just made it personal.
He decides he's going to tell Jimmy Spencer what's wrong with his family.
Called me an old decrepit has-been.
I don't know what Kurt Busch was thinking.
I mean, I guess he's a never was. Is really the term that we need to bring up today.
I'll never take credit away from anybody that's good at what they do, but respect people.
I'm not sure anybody knows exactly what started this little bit of a feud, a little bit of rivalry.
Here he is in the garage area, coming over to the car, and I can see him wanting to fight.
I asked him what the story was.
Poor Kurt Busch, you know, the guy weighs 86 pounds.
And like this skinny.
Nothing holds Jimmy Spencer back, as we know.
Spencer goes, pow.
Took care of that.
He ended up getting suspended. I got hit.
Nobody's going to say that about my family.
It's okay for a driver to say, I'm real pissed, I'm not happy about that.
Back there with the decrepit old has-beens.
That's like saying your sister's ugly.
The straw that broke the camel's back of the Kurt Busch, Jimmy Spencer not-so-love affair.
Now we're friends. We can talk about it.
But I think if you were to ask Jimmy, he'd do it all the same way.
Number 4.
1989 at North Wilkesboro, Ricky Rudd and Dale Earnhardt.
That was a great one.
That's a fight I don't want to be in the middle of.
There just happened to be something about Earnhardt, Ricky Rudd.
Those two couldn't seem to work it out.
Ricky Rudd and Dale Earnhardt getting into each other at the end of that race.
1 more to go. Rudd is inside of Dale Earnhardt as they go into turn number 1.
Great racing personalities. Ricky Rudd was tough as nails. Dale Earnhardt was tough as nails.
You guys had a conversation after this was all over. What was said? I think we're discussing the weather. I believe that telling out it was a pretty warm day out there today.
It's almost like they had magnets that drew them together.
Dale Sr. hated to lose.
Obviously upset about this situation. Obviously not.
It's what made our sport what it was. Trying to win races.
Ricky was one of those guys that was never a Dale Earnhardt fan.
Dale Sr. and Ricky had a few tussles through the years.
These two guys had been going at each other the whole race.
Closing laps, Ricky Rudd gets into Dale Earnhardt and crashed hard.
I felt like he came down on me. I don't know. All I know is we got together. They ought to find that son of a bitch and make him sit out the rest of the year.
Probably one of the best things you could do as a race car driver to get respect in the garage area was to take on Earnhardt, to not back down from Earnhardt.
Neither one were going to back down an inch.
There were people pretty livid about this wreck, regardless of whose fault it was.
I think they covered him with a blanket and snuck him out of that racetrack.
The only way we could get Ricky Rudd out of that track, lay him in the floor of the minivan.
That's a bad place. If you're going to wreck him, don't wreck him at North Wilkesboro.
How will this affect your championship view from here on? You get 3 more to go. What do you think?
Coming up next, Harvick versus Biffle, and Waltrip takes on Wallace.
Uh-oh, what's going to happen?
All hell broke loose.
Harvick has a temper.
The reason why these grandstands are full.
Hope he chokes on all that money.
You never done that?
When the 10 wildest throwdowns in NASCAR history return.
Okay, we're back, and I just did an online auto insurance quote right here with The General. It was really easy and practically anonymous.
With no personal information required.
And it only took a couple of minutes.
And you saved a whole bunch of money.
And so can you. Log on to thegeneral.com right now and get insured with a down payment as low as $59.
You'll also get instant proof of insurance. For the best car insurance rates online, go to The General and save some time.
Welcome back to the 10 wildest throwdowns in NASCAR history. This is number 3.
Here we go. Bam.
Harvick lost control of the car and it turned dead right into the pin.
Biffle had gotten into the back of Harvick.
He expects to win every race he sets in.
He said, when this race is over, I'm going after him.
You know, I always said Greg Biffle was a good guy, but he's about the most impatient thing. I'll be waiting when he comes in here.
Kevin Harvick, he was just a wild man back then.
Kevin Harvick is standing up on top of his pit box. He's got his arms crossed, and he's just standing there like a gladiator.
A vulture waiting on his kill.
For 20 or 30 laps.
All the cars pulled on pit road, and that's when the true brawl broke out.
He did one of the most bizarre things to come running down through there. And here comes Kevin Harvick over the wall.
Jumping over the hood.
It was like a scene from WWF.
Harvick was a wrestler in high school, and sometimes I think he still is, the way he slides across the hood of a car and gets in your face sometimes.
He was after somebody, and he was going to get Biffle.
Everybody knew. NASCAR had to know what was about to come down at the end of this race.
And all at once I see Harvick slide his ass across the roof.
Jump, slides across the deck lid. One motion grabs Biffle by the neck.
Hit him, I said. Hit him, Harvick. You ain't got no balls. Hit him.
You saw drivers climbing out of their cars, crew members headed over to the race cars.
I remember thinking these two are just going to duke it out. They are going to go all in, and we're all going to witness it.
And he had to check out the throttle. He knows he did, and I got bumped him a little bit.
Biffle's an idiot. That's pretty much enough.
There was some good mouth action going on then, you know, or good lip action happening. I think one of them should have hit each other, though. It would have been a lot more fun.
I wish we had more of that, actually.
Number 2.
Never underestimate your competition. And that's what I did with Rusty.
Down low again. He flipped the tire. Wildest loses when they touch.
That was classic, man. These are two titans.
Rusty, you know, takes Darrell out.
He was hell-bent for North Carolina somewhere. I don't know where he was going.
They made contact coming off turn 4.
Boom. Here comes Darrell backwards, sliding through the grass.
Did he do what I thought he did?
Did Rusty Wallace just do what I think he just did?
Rusty Wallace goes on and wins, takes home the big check.
Come down pit road, well, Hammond and them, all the boys on the tire team, they were ticked.
We were ready to throw down right there on pit road.
You thought, uh-oh, what's going to happen?
But, you know, I said, I don't care what you do, don't let him drive into victory circle without letting him know that we didn't like what he did.
Todd Parrott kind of tucked his shoulder down and did a little bit of a linebacker move.
Then all hell broke loose.
The tempers are hot.
Got crew members that start going at it in the pit.
And I remember all those guys just holding each other up, trying to go at it, wailing each other.
It is just this all-out brawl on pit road.
That was pretty neat to watch the two crews go at it.
You know what? Best thing I remember, Jeff Hamill was right in the middle of it.
That's pretty
Darrell Waltrip was always known as the big mouth, the guy who wouldn't shut up.
These are two of the biggest egos in our sport, even to this day.
Darrell was the heel, and Rusty was the baby face.
That sort of changed the tide for Darrell.
All of a sudden,
It flip-flopped.
Darrell Waltrip, the most hated man in NASCAR, became St. Darrell.
Rusty became the villain.
Fans will dictate who the bad guy is.
All the fans were pulling for Darrell, and all the fans were against Rusty.
He went out. He made his point when he said,
I hope he chokes.
He wishes he choked on that $250,000.
Hope he chokes on all that money.
I talked to Rusty the other day, and he did it. He was fine.
I mean, come on, DW. You never done that?
They called him Jaws, and they called him Jaws for a reason.
If Darrell was Rusty's age, Darrell would have done the same thing.
Rusty got the money, but it changed his life forever.
it took Rusty Wallace a long time to ever put on the white hat after that.
He said if I'd known what that would do to my fan base, I'd have gladly given him that money, not been, begrudging of it at all.
Coming up next, the wildest throwdown of them all.
The fight, that's when men were men.
That's the one that we all talk about.
This is pretty cool, man.
There's battles all day long.
Nobody cared.
He kept running his face into his fist.
My story, and I'm sticking to it.
When the 10 wildest throwdowns in NASCAR history return.
Don't worry. You'll get used to the sound of it. The 6-speed direct-injected 2011 Regal Turbo. New from Buick.
We've seen 9 unforgettable throwdowns so far.
I'll slam you straight in the wall the next time you're anywhere near me.
It's cool to watch women fight.
I just can't even call it a fight. I think it was more shouting match.
When you made him mad, He was mad.
He was wanting at that thing that day.
Harvick gets out of his car and yells at Ricky Rudd.
Ricky wasn't afraid of anybody. He sure wasn't going to back down from Kevin Harvick.
I was dumb enough to try to find him and go over and apologize and really realize how mad he would be.
In my book, it was just like a schoolyard push in the chest.
Called me an old decrepit has-been.
I don't know what Kurt Busch was thinking.
Took care of that.
Ricky Rudd was tough as nails. Dale Earnhardt was tough as nails.
That's a fight I don't want to be in the middle of.
He did one of the most bizarre things to come running down through there.
I think one of them should have hit each other, though. It would have been a lot more fun.
It is just this all-out brawl.
Crew members that start going at it in the pits.
I don't care what you do, don't let him drive in the victory circle without letting him know that we didn't like what he did.
But now it's time for the wildest throwdown of them all. Number 1.
And there's a fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison.
The fight.
That's the one that we all talk about.
Yeah, everyone talks about it.
The fight, that's when men were men.
It changed, the perception of NASCAR racing.
People were at home watching the first ever.
The first, I think, network televised race.
First televised race on CBS. This is pretty cool, man.
The only reason I was watching that race is because this huge blizzard had hit the Northeast.
Blanketed the East Coast.
This is pre-cable, so you basically had 3 or 4 channels.
Nobody really knew about NASCAR. It was really a Southern sport.
To see all the battles that went in all day long.
We fight, there's battles all day long.
Cale Yarborough was involved in this race with Donnie Allison.
2 guys fighting for the same place.
Cale Yarborough, Donnie Allison, who's going to win?
The white flag is out. 1 lap to go.
When they took the white flag, I knew it was just a matter of Cale pulling it off down the back straightaway one more time, and we're going to go to victory lane.
They went racing toward the white flag, and I never saw him again.
He comes to the inside. Donnie Allison throws the block. Cale hits him. He slides. Donnie Allison.
They wrecked.
Donnie ran. Don't be kidding. He ran him too low.
Both of them ended up in the wall because they were just deliberately turning into each other and made the crash over there.
They're hitting the wall. They're head on the wall. They slide down to the inside.
At the time, Richard Petty wins the race, but nobody cares.
His 186th career, and there's a fight between Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison.
They're fighting. They're fighting over in turn 3.
And it's not over. You think the winners won the race, and now we got to fight.
Cale started yelling at me that the wreck was my fault. I think I questioned his ancestry.
What's happening down there on the grass beside those cars?
There's a fight up here. There's a fight up here.
The tempers overflowing. They're angry. They know they have lost. Cale lunged at me and hit me in the face with his helmet.
Cale's got one leg up in the air, and Bobby's trying to punch, and Donnie's trying to trip somebody.
Here's Donnie and Cale and Bobby, and they're off in the mud over there like they're having a mud wrestling contest.
He'd always say that he kept running his face into his fist.
Running into Bobby's fist with his face.
He went to beating on my fist with his nose. My story, and I'm sticking to it.
That is what made me want to be a race car driver.
Like it or not, that's really what put NASCAR racing on the map.
To say you had the perfect storm, literally and figuratively.
People started going, wow, is it going to be like this every week? Do they fight like that all the time?
If this happens every race, I'm hooked. I'm watching NASCAR the rest of my life.
Absolutely not what NASCAR wanted the world to associate with our sport.
It's one of those moments in time that catapulted this sport into national prominence.
That was an exciting day for the sport.
It couldn't have worked out any better.
Boy, it was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to our sport.
I'll be waiting when he comes in here.
The tempers are hot when there's that much money on the line.
Season never was is really the term that we need to bring up today.
Both of them spin!
They kind of look like 2 little Power Rangers.
Lose, and crashed.
I'll slam you straight in the wall the next time you're anywhere near me.